got tricked. We're already live. It's not even 10 a.m. and we're live. That's how I'm rolling, people. Advanced live. Pre-show. I don't want to go to my business page. Facebook has this obnoxious, I don't know what I would call it, thing, I guess. Like the way I use Facebook is primarily I go and I look to see how many notifications do I have. You know, like when I load up facebook.com and then it says, do you want to log in? Because I don't use the app because I don't want to let them know what I'm doing. And so it shows a number in red, like 9, you have 9 notifications. And that usually determines whether I log in or I don't. So it's kind of like a firewall for me. If there's just 3 notifications, I'm like, I'm not going to log in because I'm very committed to not scrolling. I don't like scrolling. That feels a little bit like an anti-spiritual practice, just to be in the consumption of whatever's on a Facebook feed, including the ads and all that. So I'll look and it's like, oh, notifications. And it used to be the notifications would be these people liked your post, these people commented on your post. That was mostly it. Now it's a whole bunch of junk, like so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. I guess that's fine for them. But there's like a bunch of extra nonsense. And the other thing that Facebook does that's really obnoxious now is it's like, oh, your business page has this comment waiting for it. So I'm like, okay, I'll click that. It takes me to the business page, and I cannot for the life of me find the comment it's referring to. So it funnels me in to this whole other place, but there's no link from where I left, which was like, there's a thing for me to do. Great, take me there. And then I have to find my way through it. So I find that very obnoxious. So hopefully that's a hot take, me complaining about Facebook, really injecting something new into the metaverse, if you like. Hello, people viewing. I got 6 viewers, crushing it. Who are you? Tell me your name. Say hello in the comments. It says no comments yet. I'm going to refresh because things have been a little bit wackadoodle the last few times. But it still says no comments after I've refreshed. So let me know who you are. Say hi. Put your name in there. It's going to be a fun episode today, just like all of them, because I'm committed to this being fun and because part of what we're going to talk about is like when it stops being fun and how to have fun and like all of that stuff. It's very important. What's up, Rob in North Carolina? I don't know much about North Carolina, but I would like to. I think it's like the state that's like very flat, right? Like it's like a nice rhombus. South Carolina has been on our list when Bay and I were still running the peer-led retreat. One of the places we'd identified a few times to go check out was in South Carolina, Charleston. So I've heard nothing but great things, and I have a friend that lives in Charleston. Hey, Sandy, nice to see you. And also great to see you here from London. You live in one of my favorite cities in the world. Bay and I, last time we were there, which was maybe 2 months back, we went through we were like, let's take a train in from Maidenhead is where we were staying with our friend Mia. We took a train into London and then immediately we're like, we're too old and tired to do anything here. We're tired. But we wandered and we found our way to Carnaby Street, which was like this really cool, like kind of like an alley, but a really nice alley, almost like an alley that's been repurposed. And it was very beautiful, nice food, good little pubs and stuff you could stop in. It's cool. Hey, Nick, yo, coming in from Zagreb. Zagreb? Zagreb? I don't know how you say that. I'm going to say Zagreb. I don't even know where that is, but it sounds exotic. Zagreb. I want to share with you a alcohol that I'm enjoying right now. I bought this. We were in Portland, I guess about a month back. All of travel is merging together. We're truly into the endemic phase of the pandemic for me. Hey, Satchko, it's really nice to see you. It has been a while. So while we were in Portland, I visited a bunch of distilleries because lots of stuff there. Oh, Nick, you're in Croatia. Oh, I'm so very jelly. I've heard nothing but great things about Croatia. I'd really like to come visit. Anyhow, in Portland, we visited a bunch of distilleries and there was a vodka distillery. And we were served by a transgendered person who was fabulous. Their style was on point. I can't remember their name. And one of the things they had was this vodka right here, this chai tea flavored vodka. I kind of like, one of the things I really appreciate about spirits, liquor in general, our vices, is the artistry that goes into it. So this one feels like this branding feels a little Sailor Jerry. I really like this logo they've got here at Portland House Distillery. You can see the PhD kind of in there. That's cool. I like that there's a boat on it. Bar pilot. That sounds neat. Anyhow, this is fantastic. Chai tea is a delicious flavor. I don't normally mix with a lot of vodka because it's one of the least flavorful of the spirits. You know, like rum, gin, they have much more character, whereas vodka kind of gives you the bite of alcohol without much more to it. But this one has been really great. I've been using this to make White Russians. So a White Russians, well, I'm going to get it wrong now. I believe it's Kahlua. What is it? Kahlua vodka and milk, I think. And so a bit of chai vodka as opposed to regular vodka really makes that taste great. And I've also been combining this with a drink I've kind of improvised off of one of my favorite drinks currently called the Blind Pilot. I'm going to share this is the recipe for the Blind Pilot. I'll get this in the chat so that people can figure out, hey, Richard, it's great to see you, brother. Boom. Bourbon, sweet vermouth, and Galliano. So typically bourbon and sweet vermouth would be a Manhattan, which is not my favorite drink. But when you put the Galliano in there, Galliano is a vanilla flavored spirit. If you ever heard of a drink called the Harvey Wallbanger, Galliano is the main, it's kind of the special ingredient in there. And so that drink I like a great deal. And I kind of built my own drink out of it called a blind sailor as a result. And that the way to make a blind sailor is like this. So you replace the bourbon with the chai vodka, and because we're taking out some of the strong character of bourbon, we're reducing the amount of sweet vermouth so that it doesn't overpower the vodka, and the chai is quite minimal. So those are two drinks you can try there if you like. Give them a go and see how they taste. Anyhow, we're not here to talk about vodka, strangely enough. We're here to talk about ayahuasca. We're here to talk about these awesome topics that you guys have been so generous to provide. Oh, and hey, Nadine, welcome in from Tawasin, land of Canada's sunny beaches and cows and fields of stuff. Anyhow, so let's see, I've been back just shy of 2 weeks. I got back on Monday, a week ago this Monday, from the most recent time in ceremony, and I'll be back in September. Currently, I'm going every 2 months or so with an intention to go probably once a month to make that. That's what I've been slowly feeling called into. And I'll talk a little bit about that. This is this journal right here. Whoop, open the key. This is the ceremony journal. This is where all of the ceremonies are written about in this journal here. And so I'm not going to go into too much depth about like ayahuasca in general, because I've talked about that extensively, and Bay and I did a video from the park where we both talked about that more broadly. So if you're interested, you can go on my page, you can see that video. You can also go to Bay's page and talk about that. And watch that. I just want to share a little bit of some of the medicine I brought back, and then we're going to dive into the audience topics. And Andrew Nadine is talking about across the water from me. So you and Nadine are quite close. Surrey and Tawasin are fairly near each other. Both suburbs of Vancouver. Would that be fair? So going down to ceremony, this would be about the 20th time I've sat. 20th through 23rd or 24th or something like that. And I was going down with a bit of trepidation this time. Well, I was going down with two things. I was going down with some trepidation, and I was going down with some disillusionment. So the trepidation was a function of the fact that 2 months prior, I'd sat in ceremony, and the medicine that I had been given was very humbling. And it drove up a lot of my shame. And what I mean by that, like, because people hear that and they're like, fuck, ayahuasca sounds mean or nasty. It's not at all. But when I'm gonna use coaching, transformational work as an analogy so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. So when I am working with a client and let's say that they're frustrated by this person below them, this direct report who's like arrogant and talks over everyone and just refuses to listen to people. And they're like, I just don't know how to work with them, Adam. They never listen to me. And so in those situations, often the thing we're complaining about is what we are. Like what we're frustrated by out there, what we as a leader can't seem to address, it's because that's our stuff. We're a reflection of the thing that we're frustrated about. And seeing this in the moment is really, really tough because we judge it so harshly. And so if you judge someone for talking over people, for their arrogance, for, oh, they're just so full of shit, they're full of themselves. If that's how you're holding someone else, and then your coach lovingly invites you to start to notice like, hey, actually, that's you too. I notice you do a lot of that. I notice you've talked over me a lot in this conversation, or I noticed that when I witnessed you working with that person, you kept talking over them and interrupting them and not listening to them. That's hard for us to look at. That's stark. And it's when we're brought present to that, it's really awkward to look at, and it's very humbling. You know, when we realize that the thing we judge other people the most for is actually something we're constantly doing and we've been totally oblivious to it, it's like doubly hard to be with. It's hard, first of all, just because it's hard to see that we're carrying out the very thing that we're super judgmental of. And second, it's really, really hard because we feel kind of embarrassed because we've been oblivious to it all this time. So we're like, oh my God, not only am I doing that, but I've been just like stumbling around causing that with people constantly. I've just been spraying that everywhere and I've been totally oblivious. I feel so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. So that's a occurrence in coaching, and it has to happen that way. The reason it has to happen that way is not because your coach is a jerk. It's because in order for you to really address any behavior, you first have to be able to see yourself conducting that behavior. And so there's no way around that. You know, if you keep punching yourself in the head, but you're unaware of it, and then you come to me and you're complaining about headaches, great, I can support you with those headaches. Before I can do that, I have to help you start to see that you're punching yourself in the head, and that's probably contributing to the headaches. So I went down 2 months ago and I just got a whopping dose of like humility, and it drove up a lot of my shame. I was really ashamed for how I've been showing up, really like, oh my God, like I thought I was helping people, and I do plenty, but like in the areas that the medicine supported me to notice, I could really see how there was a bunch of my own insecurity, a bunch of my own neediness wrapped up in helping people. And not only those things, but like a bunch of my arrogance. And so I was like, oof, that medicine tastes bad. That was hard medicine to take. And I'd really spent the last 2 months prior to going down trying to integrate this, like trying to forgive myself, trying to let myself off the hook, you know, working with it, sitting with it. Okay, can I feel the embarrassment I feel, and then can I open as that embarrassment? Can I breathe that? Can I, rather than try to tell myself it's okay and I don't have to feel embarrassed, basically move myself away from feeling embarrassed, can I instead sit in the embarrassment and just open as that? So rather than try to be like, you don't have to feel embarrassed, be like, the truth is you do feel embarrassed, Adam, and can you allow that to be? Can you let that exist and open and deepen your breath and all of that stuff? So that was kind of the work leading up. So it was a little bit like, oh boy, what am I going to come down and, you know, what's the medicine going to be like this time? What is there for me to look at? What is there for me to see that I'm not already seeing in my life? That was the first thing. The second thing I mentioned was that I felt disillusioned. And this is quite a common experience for me. And it used to be a lot more. In the early days of coaching, it would be like 1 month I'd be really inspired by the possibility of this work. I'd be like, oh my God, coaching changes lives. It transforms people. People actually physically like look and occur younger when you meet them, when they're deep in the transformational work. This is amazing. And the next month I'd be like, this is a bunch of fucking bullshit, and I'm a charlatan, and I'm selling snake oil, and this is just feel goodery. There's no truth to this. And I would kind of up and down and up and down. And the challenge in that work was that I wanted someone to come and like, you know, plug the matrix into the back of my head so that I could know Kung Fu. Like I would wake up and I'd be like, I'm inspired by coaching. I'm inspired by transformation again. That's what I wanted to have happen, which is very at the effect, right? I wanted to not have to do any work myself. I just wanted to like get hit by Zeus's thunderbolt, plugged into the back of the head by the Matrix, flicked in the forehead by my coach, whatever. Hey, it works. And I'd be like, oh, great. Thanks for letting me know it works. I'm inspired again. But that's never the work. The work has always been, I've got to generate that internally myself. So I'd have to notice what are the things that, like, what are the beliefs, the stories, the events that have happened that I'm holding on to and using as evidence that this is bullshit. What am I unwilling to notice? What am I fixating on instead of noticing the good stuff that's happening over here that's contributing to me feeling this way? And, so on and so forth. And so what's happened over the decade and change of being in this line of work is that the moments of inspiration are way longer and last for a much greater duration, and they're much richer because I'm more open to them. I'm less protecting myself. In the early days, I'd get inspired, but then I'd be like, I don't want to get too inspired because I know what happens. There's a down curve. I don't want to fall so far. So I'll pinch the ends of this sine wave so that it becomes nice and flat. Ha! There's no ups and downs. Shit, I'm a corpse. So these days I can really, that inspiration I feel from transformational work is very rich for me. I can really bathe in it. I can fully open myself to it. And those moments of dissolution happen less frequently and they have a shorter duration. But they still happen because I'm a human, and humans were cyclical, as is the world around us. So the same thing I notice happens with the medicine. And I've got all of this beautiful work with the 10 years of transformational coaching that I've built, and the medicine is very similar to that. I relate to ayahuasca very similar to the work I do with my clients. So I still have some facility. I have like a lot more spaciousness than when I first started with coaching. But I go through these moments where I'm like, is this really doing anything? Like, I went down, I was awesome, I was tripping balls in the jungle, and then I had this thing and I felt bad, and I haven't seemed to be able to move it forward. Is it doing fucking anything for me? Hey, Nick. Nick says hi. Hi, Nick. And so I went down, I had the trepidation, and then I was also like, I don't know, who knows? Is this really real? Or are we just all taking drugs, calling it medicine, getting high? And let me take a sip. What happened was I went, met people, settled into the space, began the process, and the first night of ceremony, I drank my first cup of medicine, I lay on my mat, I sat on my mat, and I immediately was like, oh, I do trust the medicine. Even though I've been struggling with this disillusionment, even though I've been fighting with this fear about what I'm going to be shown, ultimately I trust this process. And that's similar to the way I feel about coaching, where like even when I'm really frustrated, even when I'm feeling crappy about myself or me or my life or my clients or whatever, I still trust coaching. I still bring that to my coach, and I still get supported by my coach because I trust in the power and the magic of coaching. Even if I'm having a hard time seeing it for myself, I buy into it. So the same thing was showing up for me with ayahuasca. Nick likes tripping balls in the jungle too. Yeah, I like that part as well. I'm not immune to that. I love that. Morning, Tommy. It's nice to see you. And so some of the things that I really took away from this time sitting in ceremony, the first was I really, like, a big theme for me this whole time was one of learning how to forgive myself on a much deeper level than I've practiced and been able to do up till this point. And part of why that was so clear for me was what had happened, the last time I was down. I was like, I can't seem to forgive myself. And I started to notice that, like, while I've done a lot of work in forgiveness, I've practiced a lot with this. I've taken this on. I've got tools, blah, 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 blah. I've brought this to my coach. There is like just a new level of forgiveness to drop down into. And this is the nature, by the way, always of the work. So it's never like, oh, now I forgive myself, I'll never struggle with that ever again. That's not how it goes, because we learn how to be exquisite at doing something at this level, but then we start to step into a bigger game in our life. And at that point, we have to relearn some of this stuff. So it's not that I had no capacity to forgive myself, but there was a level of self-forgiveness that was elusive to me. And what I could see as I sat in ceremony and the medicine worked with me was that one of the things I'd learned to do in my life was perform at a very high level so as to not need to forgive myself. And the structure of that, the way that fit together was that I would make a mistake, cause a mess, whatever, and be like, fuck, I fucked up. Never again. That, I feel bad about that. I'm never going to make that mistake again. I'm never going to do that again. And from there, I would get really, 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 really good at whatever I was doing, wherever I'd created the mess, so that that never happened again. So hopefully you can see underneath that, ultimately what's happening is a fundamental unwillingness and inability to forgive myself. I'm not saying performing at a high level is bad. I'm saying that if I'm performing at a high level because I'm holding somewhere deep down internally that I fucked up and it's wrong what I did, then all of the performance that follows from that seed is kind of like it's in law they call it like fruit from a poison tree. Like it's all rooted, it's all built on top of this underlying thing that is you fucked up. Don't fuck up ever again, you fuck up. That's the underlying thing. And so you can create a world of performance, a world of amazing stuff. You can be the greatest clarinet player in the world. But if all of the world you created is fundamentally built on top of the seed that you fucked up, don't fuck up, you fuck up, there's only a certain amount of feeling good about yourself you're going to be able to get from that performance. And so that was like burrowing down, into that seed was what I was really doing in this ceremony and really starting to get like, wow. From there, if I can set aside the performance for a while, okay, so I'm not going to try to do better. I'm just going to sit with the feeling like, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. I feel embarrassed. I need to sit with my embarrassment and slowly over time forgive myself for it. From there, I can clear out the you fucked up. I can wipe that off the table. I can forgive it. I can forgive myself, hold myself as perfect exactly the way I showed up. It doesn't mean I go and do it again necessarily. I might choose something different. It means I have the freedom to show up any way I want from here, as opposed to don't do that ever again. And from there, if I choose to perform at a high level, that performance can be imbued with love. I can perform at a high level from a place of like, I'm amazing and I love myself, as opposed to performing at a high level because if I don't, I will fuck up again. On the surface, those two types of performance can look very similar. They can look almost identical. But the work of like a deep rooted in their practice, like deeply trained transformational coach, or the magic and the miracle of Mother Ayahuasca is to support you to see and to come present to the way of being that lies underneath of those things. And it's the way of being that we're tackling. So this was a really big piece for me. This set of ceremonies was to really like take on that inability to forgive myself and create something different, some new way of being around it. Hey, Soma, it's nice to see you. Soma's just saying, you damn hippies in your ayahuasca ceremonies. Yeah. That's an interesting thing to call me. I don't know that I've ever been called a hippie in my life, so I I welcome this. And I suppose like as my life naturally moves itself towards a more spiritual practice, maybe I'll get called that more. Neat. I got called preppy a lot when I was younger. I was very buttoned up, tight. Hi, Katie. It's nice to see you. Katie's saying, thanks for sharing medicine versus coaching. Indeed, I'm happy to. For me, these two things are really important because I find in my noticing of this work, transformational ontological coaching, which is to say coaching that works at the level of someone's being, rather than coaching directed at like what you're doing. I'm not talking like business coaching, financial coach, book coach, marketing coach. These people can support you with those things, but still work with you ontologically, meaning they're like, okay, how's your book going? And you're like, it's good. I just got to force myself to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, you seem like you're not really enjoying this. They're starting to get ontological with you. So ontological coaching dovetails beautifully with medicine work, plant medicine. And at least for me, the plant medicine I'm engaged with is ayahuasca. And there's a real dovetail. And the gaps in ontological coaching really are met beautifully with ayahuasca, and the gaps in ayahuasca, the stuff that's not really held so well, like integration and stuff like that after you leave the ceremony, is really beautifully met by ontological coaching. And so those two things, they're like they're kind of like coach the distinction between coaching and leadership, in as much as they're not the same thing, but they really they merge and integrate beautifully together. And coaching and leadership aren't the same thing, but leaders coach and coaches lead. And you need to become masterful. You don't need to do anything, but if you really want to go deep into those lines of work, it comes from marrying the two, is where the real beauty, the real power comes from. Thanks, Katie. Katie's just writing, I felt that as well. I'd love to see your work. You work as an integration coach. I already do, really. Like the clients that come down with me to ayahuasca ceremony, so much of what we're doing is integration. And again, the distinction I would draw for myself and for people that are like, oh, that sounds cool, is an integration coach. That's coaching focused on a thing, a doing, right? Oh, I'm going to help you integrate. I would assert that any coach working ontologically deep in their practice, they work with their own coach, they're creating their own breakthroughs, they're continuing their own work as opposed to just delivering work at you. Any ontological coach is ultimately an integration coach. Whenever you work with someone who's doing breakthrough being-based work, supporting you to create transformation, they're supporting you to integrate. It's inevitable. It naturally happens. Okay, a couple other things I want to share about my time down there. So that was a big one, was like performance as a way of overcoming a lack of forgiveness, and what becomes available for me and my people as we learn to forgive first and foremost. And then, holy crap, your performance fires off like a rocket ship from there, because it's no longer done out of a place ultimately of self-loathing. Let's just quickly look at the other big theme throughout all of this was like there was a lot of surrender for me. And the way that looked was like me wanting the party to go off. Me wanting like, okay, I'm going to drink this medicine. This whole roof is going to blow off this place. I'm going to dance. I'm going to get down. The music's going to be bumping. People are going to be like, yeah, this is crazy. We're going to have an amazing night. And then that not happening. And me being frustrated. And then me being like, oh, I hope the music picks up soon. Like a lot of my experience throughout the early parts of ceremony, and when I say early, I mean like the first 3 hours, like the first half really, was sitting there wanting things to be different than they were. And that's how you train surrender. You don't train surrender by just going in a park and then lying there. I mean, that'll work a little bit, but your practice really begins the moment you're like, fuck, this is boring, I should go. That's when surrender starts to be practiced, because now you have a desire for your experience to be different than the one you have. And that's where we can practice surrendering. Surrendering ultimately is to let go of the expectation we have that things ought to or should be, or that we want them to be different, and just be with them exactly as they are. So it was a big theme for me these 4 nights of ceremony. It was like, really, really sitting there frustrated. It wasn't going the way I wanted it to. Then trying to develop strategies like, how can I make it okay that it's going this way? Because I know if I do that, then it'll go a different way. Can you see the sophisticated nature of my ego there? It's like, okay, got it. Surrender. Yes, I got it. Hashtag surrender. We'll put that on the blackboard there. We've got that. So what we need to do is surrender so that things, if we surrender, will then change, and then we can have the party. So that's not real surrender. And one of the ways I see this analogously in leadership is where a leader has created a bit of a mess, but they're like, I can totally see how the reaction this person's having to the way I showed up is part of their own stuff. It's part of their, like, they need to take this work on. That's why they're getting so upset about this. And when I'm supporting a leader with this, the real work for that leader, first and foremost, is to set aside what they think they see for this other person, and instead just go and sit with this person and get them. Just listen to them. And to listen to them in such a way that they hear them such that it makes complete sense. Not this makes sense because you're stupid and were raised in a public school system and therefore don't have the sophistication I do. I understand why you're dumb and feel this way. It makes sense. Not that kind of making sense. Making sense like, holy crap, the way you feel and the decisions you're making, I would make those too. Like, I'm convinced this makes sense what you've shared. So like really dropping entirely their agenda, their platform position, so I can fully get over there with that other person and listen to them. And the thing that's challenging about that is that it's hard for us to let go of our positionality. So when I work with a leader, when I support them to start to listen to people this way, what happens is that there's like, okay, got it. So I got to listen to them this way, Adam. And then if I do that, then they'll see that they need to take on some work and become responsible. Is that right? And what's happening there is they're not actually dropping their position. They're sort of willing to drop their position temporarily, provided that the person then comes around to their side. So it's like this sophisticated kind of like secret, I'll let go of my position, but I'm secretly going to hold on to it. I'll let go of my position provided you then come back to it. That's not that's not letting go of your position, and it's not surrender. So this was the other really significant theme for me throughout these 4 days, this week of ceremony was really me getting a lot of practice from the medicine in surrender, and that's tough medicine to take. You know, one of the things I notice is when I kinked my neck. It's hard for me to turn my neck this way, so now I have to like I do the power rotation. It's annoying. One of the things I notice about, let me drink some coffee because I talked myself out of my train of thought. I can't remember what it was. It'll come back to me. Um, so one of the things that hey Mia, it's lovely to see you. There's a couple things that have been, I guess we could say like revealing themselves to me. And more as my practice as a man, as a being, I guess, becomes more spiritual in nature, more and more my life stops being something I'm like, I need to make a bunch of money, as an example. Therefore, I need to do all of this stuff. Now I will get busy and do all of that stuff. Like that's very like kind of me imposing a path upon life as it unfolds around me. More and more over time, I soften into this deep, deep trust that the path is already unfolding in front of me, and I don't really have to do very much. And as I soften and step along that path, all of the abundance, all of that stuff, it comes to me anyhow. I don't have to force it. This is infuriating for people on LinkedIn who reach out to me and try to sell me leads or market to me. Because I always engage with them. I always have a conversation with them, but I'm like, I'm not at all interested in like the approach you're taking is just antithetical to the way I live my life and run my business. And you can hear them trying to like pull me into their context for like, no, the way you do stuff is you get the system, you run the algorithm, you do these things, then you get 50 calls every month of hot leads, and then you make $15,000 months or some nonsense like that. So they're like, oh, okay, I'm hearing right now is not the time for you to do this. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird that you're hearing that. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying all of that activity that you're trying to help me do, all of it is unnecessary. And further, I actually find that detrimental to something deeper. Oh, got it. So you're saying right now you just don't feel like you want to do this, but no, that's not what I'm saying. So anyhow, it's infuriating for those people and fun for me. As I continue down this path, I notice more and more of my life is sort of like being revealed to me. So it's less like, what do I want to do next? And more like, what am I being called into next? What am I feeling is opening up on the path? And like the two big things are that one, I can really feel like being a bridge between, like being that gap filler for ayahuasca and transformational coaching. Like there's a real role there for me to play, to bridge that gap, to bring people to plant medicine, and to support people that found their way into plant medicine to engage with coaching and transformational work in other places, so that they don't just have to keep going, to a place in the jungle or to Costa Rica or wherever, drink tea and then come back and then sort of like, life is reasserting itself. I guess I need to go back down. So there's like this role as a bridge. And the other thing that I really am more and more noticing showing up is, for me to be teaching in this lineage of work, and to be teaching in the nexus of that. So I'm in conversation. I'm working to create a role for myself down at Rhythmia, which is the place we go to, and I'm not exactly sure how that looks, and that's some negotiating and some noticing as it unfolds again. But it feels like there's something for Bay and I to do there, that's like naturally emerging. I'm just like, okay, there's some work for you to bring your art here. And I felt that 3 years ago when I first went and sat in ceremony, and every time I've gone and sat since, that's gotten stronger. It's not something, when I share that with people, sometimes they say like, oh, so like you just don't feel like there's a choice, or like you have to do that, I guess. And that's not it at all. Just like your hair has a natural part to it, like it naturally parts on one side of your head, that doesn't mean you have to comb your hair that way. It doesn't mean you have to have a particular haircut. You can do anything you want with your hair. But what I notice is that when I part my hair according to its natural part, it just seems to work a bit better. It just seems to be a little bit easier. It just feels better. That's what aligning yourself with your path is like. The vast majority of the world is out of alignment with their path because we don't have a lot of tools until recently to support us finding, discovering, coming back into alignment with our path. We're not taught that really. What we're taught by the world by and large, the modern world, is do what you should do. Do what needs to be done. And doing what needs to be done and what should be done is not at all related to your path. I mean, it's always going to be somewhat related because it's your path and you can only veer so far from it. But like the world tells me you need to make a bunch of money and you need to set aside a bunch of money and you need to have that money saved up for retirement. None of that is related to like what brings me joy in my spirit and my heart. None of that is engaged in a conversation of like, what would really thrill you to get paid doing? What would have like, what that piece of conversation, that like make money, save money, retire, what that does is it sort of has me set aside 60 years of my life and just focus on the last 20. How do I make sure I'm okay in the last 20 years of my life? As opposed to a deeper conversation, which would be like, what do you want your entire life to be about, Adam? What could you do that would thrill you in your heart? And when you notice you're not thrilled in your heart, what might there be to take on? Those sort of questions. So we're not really brought into the world. We're not trained. We're not supported to relate to our life through that lens. We're supported to relate to life through what do I need to do? What should I do? What's a good idea to do? All of these fancy words we have for what we should do. I should eat healthy. Eating healthy is a good idea. I should drink less. Drinking less is a good idea. But why? Why do you really want to do that in your heart? Aside from it, never mind it being a good idea. Doing stuff because it's a good idea is a bad idea. So knock it off. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, like, I put a should in there. It doesn't mean don't eat healthy. It doesn't mean, well, you like candy, so just live off of candy. It means if you want to eat healthy, go deeper into your heart to create some kind of reason that's really compelling and calls you forward into your life, as opposed to doing it from the intellectual, I should do this. This is a good idea. I will feel better if I do this. Let's check the ceremony journal, see if there's anything more here to share right now. I don't think there is. I guess I'll share like briefly the final night of ceremony where we go is a Colombian tradition of medicine called the yahe. And the yahe is it's brewed slightly different. It's still using ayahuasca, but it's a different leaf, I believe. I think I've got that right. And the yahe is a thicker brew, and it tastes worse. It's less sweet and more just bitter. It's quite hard to drink. It's not a pleasant tasting drink, and it's more purgative. And what a medicine being purgative means is that it's helping you clear out the stuff in your body that's not serving you. Your body releases stuff through a purge. And there's many ways you can purge. You can sweat, I like to dance, you can shake. I get the Jimmy arms sometimes. My arms just shake. You can yawn, you can cry, you can poo, you can fart, you can burp, you can vomit, blah, blah, blah. Usually I don't vomit very much. But the last night, the yahe night, it's very purgative, and that's often, I usually have one good purge that night. And initially I was quite scared of that. It took me like it took me about 16 ceremonies before I first threw up. I was very frightened of it, and I was proud of, I never throw up. I'm better than these pukers, Adam. Adam and your arrogance. And so, but over time that's changed, and I've started to really relate to this as quite a beautiful experience. And I want to invite anyone that's even considering working with the wisdom of the spirit of divine Mother Ayahuasca to like hold purging as like a really sacred thing. And it's sacred because, well, purging's essential in the body. Like if you just ate food but never peed or pooed, you're in trouble. Your body needs to release the impurities. It needs to release the stuff that doesn't serve it. It needs to release everything in that piece of food that is not nutritional and of use to the body. Just like a machine needs to give off heat. Heat is a waste product of a mechanical process. So when your car engine is running, if it's not giving off any heat, that's gonna cause a serious problem. So a car engine purges, your computer, your laptop running right now purges. If you ever notice your phone getting kind of hot because you're doing something, it's purging. It's purging heat. Purging is an essential and a natural, like physical process in the universe around us. And so we as human beings, we require purging too. And purging is a release. It's letting go of something that no longer serves us. You can hold that spiritually. You can hold that literally. It's your choice. I don't care. And so what is happening when we sit with ayahuasca is we're doing whatever work there is to do to move through kinks in our hose. You know, when you have a garden hose and it's been spooled and it's got a kink in it, you can turn that water up as hard as you want and it doesn't move the kink. And in fact, the more water you have busting through that hose, the harder it is for the kink to unfurl. The pressure in the hose actually keeps the kink locked in. And so in ayahuasca, what's happening is it kind of turns the throughput of that water down so that we can unkink. And then like a kink in a hose, that kink needs to sort of like unwind out the hose. You know, you've probably, if you've ever tried to straighten a hose, you don't just like straighten it here and be like, I'm done, right? You have to take that lack of that curvature and run it all the way out to the end of the hose. And then it can kind of like release out the hose and then the hose can lie flat. So that's a lot of what's happening in the purge is ayahuasca is supporting us to like clear out whatever the kink is. And then that kink's got to be released from the body. It's got to be released energetically. And that is the purge. So many forms of purging. The big thing I was purging this ceremony was my arrogance and my neediness. And I noticed those two things they're like two sides of the same coin. Bay makes fun of me because I pronounce coin with two syllables, coin. Apparently you're meant to pronounce it coin, but I don't like that. I don't want it to be a diphthong, O-I. I want it to have an umlaut above it, which indicates in some languages you pronounce both of these vowels. So I guess I just pronounce coin a little more metal than some of us. Anyhow, arrogance and neediness, the way those have shown up for me is there's a part of the connection I am naturally that loves to be in connection with people. And when I felt as a kid, that connection being pulled away, that was scary for me. had me conclude as a kid, without any ability to distinguish this, without any conscious knowing of what was happening, I just started to feel distance being created. I started to feel a very subtle rejection of the energy I was. Not maybe even intentional, right? Just anytime I'm connecting with someone and then they start to withdraw. And and I developed two strategies as a child to deal with that rejection. The first one was this neediness, this like, oh, the energy's pulling away, clutch at it. Come back here, love me more. I'll be even funner. I'll make more jokes. What can I do? And like as that got practiced more and more and more to the point where I became a man, it became unconscious and kind of a little cloying at times. The other strategy was because I feel this rejection, fuck them. I'll reject you first. Fuck you. I don't need you. I'm better than you. You're garbage to me. And I would subtly learn to judge people. Oh, my voice cracked there. To judge people, bring them down, diminish them so that I like them less and I'm less inspired by them and I need them less. And that way, well, there's nothing to be needy about. Fuck them. They suck. And so it's interesting, right? That arrogance and neediness, which we would almost see as kind of like complete opposite, but that's always the way, is that the opposite of one is actually like part of the same thing. And so a lot of the forgiveness of myself, a lot of the surrender, a lot of the humility that I got last time I was sitting in a ceremony, it had been like brewing for the last 2 months prior to coming to the ceremony. And on the final day of ceremony, what I was really releasing was I was finally ready to like let that out of my body, to release that from my system, to purge out a bunch of the arrogance, a bunch of the neediness. There's probably always going to be more because there's always new edges, right? Our work's never fully finished. We never fully overcome something, but there's a capacity to be in connection with people that is far deeper and more pure and less hooky, less like energetically hooky for people and more open than there ever has been prior to this. Good fucking work. Way to go, Adam. Let's see what you wrote here, Andrew. So Andrew, you wrote, wow, that is powerful. It's so true that the general focus seems to be in life on retirement. Andrew's talking about, making a bunch of money, retire. The general focus seems to be on retirement and ensuring that there is enough put away for those years of our lives. Within that, having a week or two of vacation each year to experience joy. The question of what do I want my entire life to look like, I think Andrew is saying, is like really powerful. We are very oblivious to how much of our life is led as our life becomes a means to get to the ends that we have sort of established. So it's like if you go back and you watch last week's video where Andrew was coaching a guy named David and I was providing feedback, you'll see David's really like, I just need to do a project. I need to be okay with it. He doesn't really want to do the project, at least from his current relationship to projects. He's just quote unquote willing to do it because he believes it'll get him something he wants. And when we live our life in such a way that it's like, I'm willing to do this crappy thing because I think it'll get me what I want, our whole life ultimately ends up being, I'm going to do something crappy to get something I want. And so the vast majority of your life becomes you living a life that feels crappy to you, interspaced with moments of getting what you want. And as you do more and more of that, those moments of getting what you want, the joy they provide you, become less and less, narrower and narrower. And your experience of doing what you have to do, even though it's crappy, becomes broader and broader and broader. And that's why people, or that's one of the reasons why people over time kind of turn into like drugs, alcohol, etc., because they want to numb those moments of crappiness because they're not fun. And because the hit they were getting from that moment of getting what they want becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So they have to find ways to supplement it. Oh, I'll get high. What if I got high and drunk while I had sex or while I masturbated? Okay, that would get me back to that initial high I felt so long ago. There's a better way. There's a better way. And I'm selling it to you. $5.99, 3 easy payments. Okay, well, I think that's all the talk and Ayahuasca we're going to do. If you guys have questions, I would love to hear them. I can share about my experience, and I'm really committed to doing that because I believe that's an important part of doing our work. I think I think as a coach, I often say like coaches need to lead, and the way coaches need to lead, well, they don't need to do anything, right? But like coaches deep in their work lead, and the way they lead is by sharing their work with the world, not by telling the world what to do, but by sharing the work they're doing internally. Here's the thing I'm confronting right now, and it feels crappy. Here's what I can see right now. It's not fully resolved. That's healing medicine for people because that gives people a place to notice themselves in your generous sharing of yourself. What most of the world actively tries to do, and most of the coaching world, is let me share this for you. I'm going to share something for you. So I'm going to be vulnerable for you, or I'm going to be vulnerable as a means to get you to buy my product. That'll never work. First, because it's not, if you're being vulnerable in order to do something, you're not truly being vulnerable. You're being vulnerable as a strategy, and doing something as a strategy is never the same as truly doing or being that thing. So I think it's important for coaches to do that. I think it's important for curanderos and ayahuasqueros, people that are healers, people that are committed to working with ayahuasca or other plants, to share that medicine too, share what they're getting. Alrighty, well, awesome. Let's go to viewer questions because we got some cool ones. I really like what you guys have brought. So first, Nadine brought a really great question here. Let's move my Roam over here so I can see it a little bit better. So Nadine asked, she says, a topic of interest is quieting one's analytical brain when on the verge of leaping out of one's comfort zone. Can you talk about that, Adam? Instead, how do we trust the process? How do we make a decision aligned with our intuition? So that's a great question. How do we deal with this analytical brain, this monkey mind, this like reasoning, this reasoning tool, this calculator? So the first thing we do, I always think the most valuable thing we can do is bring reverence. As a starting point, like the single best starting point for any of this kind of work is reverence. Because reverence is an invitation for us not to dismiss something, not to throw it away. It's an invitation for us to not say, that shouldn't happen, right? Reverence precludes something not supposed to happen. If I'm bringing reverence, then whatever's happening, I gotta, like, my stand, my commitment from a place of reverence is like, oh, this is happening. I should pay attention. I should notice this. I should really get curious about this. I should allow this to happen and really hold it with sacredness. So anytime we step out of our comfort zone, anytime we step into an area that is unfamiliar with us, that's ultimately what the comfort zone is. It's better termed the familiar zone and the unfamiliar zone. But that would never trend. That's a terrible name. It wouldn't catch on, and we wouldn't be talking about it still to this day after it had been coined like, 100 years ago. So we stick with comfort zone, but truthfully, really what's more at play is it's a familiarity zone. And when we see that which is familiar, we can kind of situate ourselves in it. We know how to be around what's familiar. We know what's going to happen. We know what to expect. We're not going to get blindsided by something outside of the norm. We can manage it all. So anytime we step past the edge of our comfort zone, of our familiar zone, into something new, that's where transformation can begin to happen. And as soon as we cross that threshold, or even consider crossing that threshold, it's going to drive up our fear. Remember that our fear is designed to protect us from the unknown. The way it does that is it has you kind of ultimately become a little resistant to the unknown and turn back towards the known, the familiar, the comfort. That's fear's only job. Get you back into the center of the life, the world, and the worldview that is comfortable for you. If it does that, fear is won. And if it does that, you are less likely to get hurt. You're less likely to have bad stuff happen to you. That's the function of fear. So anytime we're trying to step past the border, the realm of our comfort zone into the unknown, we know fear is going to show up, and the way fear is going to work is through resistance. So resistance operates a whole bunch of ways. It can operate by just having us like get into a legal battle in our mind about why we shouldn't do the thing that we're contemplating doing. You know, you get up on that high-rise diving board and you look down, you're like, this is a terrible idea. I don't need to do this. Why should I have to do this? My life is fine without jumping off a diving board. Why don't I climb back down? I'm going to climb back down. So it can work that way. It can work by having us get super busy and focused, like, oh my God, I was going to jump off this high diving board, but I just realized I've got to do all these things and I'm late for that other important date. And oh my God, I forgot to put food out for my cat. I got to get off of this and go feed my cat. You know, it's a bit silly the way I'm laying this out, but it's also like entirely the truth. You will find yourself very busy, and your busyness will get in the way of doing the thing that was scary. Oddly enough, your busyness will not get in the way of you doing the other stuff, the stuff that's more prosaic, the stuff that you're more reliable to do. So that's one way that our fear can work. So there's a whole bunch of ways that our resistance will show up. I'll just name another few really quickly. Like, I kind of want to read from Who Do You Think You Are? Because I talk a little bit about this distinction between, well, I'll see if I can find it quickly, but a distinction between active resistance and passive resistance. I'm reading from this book, soon to be out, September 12th. If you want to learn about awesome ontological work and deepen your practice with this stuff, this is the book for you. So, distinguishing discovery, distinguishing blame from responsibility. Oh my God, so much juice in this book. It's so good. First, second, third stages of leadership. Hell yeah. We're looking for life as normal. Here we go. Life as normal. And I think I must talk about active and passive resistance. Let's see. Maybe I don't have it here. I'm going to look briefly, and if I can't find it, well, I've done my best to plug this book. Okay, I can't find it for now, but trust me, the book's amazing. So active resistance is where I know I should do that thing, but instead I'm not going to. I'm going to go party with my friends. Or I know I should do the thing, but instead I'm just going to get busy with work, or I'm just going to drum, or I'm going to play video games. Passive resistance is the kind of resistance where it has me like simply forget to do the thing. Now, I can be responsible for simply forgetting. Oh, what is there to do next time? Set a reminder so I don't forget. But the convenience of the fact I forgot to do the thing that's really edgy lets me off the hook of doing the thing. Another form of passive resistance is just being so busy in your life that you don't have time to do the thing that's really edgy. Well, the way you deal with that is you have to carve out time in your calendar, 1 hour that says do the thing that's scary, and then you devote that hour and you do it. And if that doesn't work, you call up a friend and you say, I need you to hold my hand for this hour while I do the scary thing, because I keep resisting it. So anyhow, there's all of these ways that resistance tries to knock us off the path. It stops us from exiting our comfort zone. And the analytical mind is absolutely one of those. And so the reason I started this whole conversation by talking about holding reverence is that we really want to just acknowledge the analytical mind is going to get fucking loud. The moment we start to think about doing something that's a little unsafe, that's a little scary, that's a little outside of our familiar zone, that's outside of the realms of what we're comfortable doing. And we want to simply honor that. What most of us try to do, which is how your resistance wins, is our analytical mind kicks up and it's like, you shouldn't do this. This is scary. This is bad. Here's a reason why not. Your life is good without doing this. Have you thought about this? What about that? Maybe you should start just all that nonsense. Then we start trying to argue with it. Your life is fine without it. No, it's not. Here's why my life isn't fine. Have you thought about ballroom dancing? I don't even like ballroom dancing. What are you talking about? Well, but you could do this next week instead of this week. I'm busy next week. That is a sophisticated way your resistance has tricked you, because it seems like you're actively fighting your resistance, but what you're actually doing is just getting into more thinking. So if you were trying to use thinking to defeat thinking, guess what? You're thinking. You failed. The ego has tracked you Trapped you or tricked you, one of those two words. Mush them together. And so what we want to do is distinguish what's happening. Oh, my analytical mind is picking up. That probably means I'm scared. And all there is to do is to let it do its thing without having it stop me. That's the hard part about this, is because what's really comfortable is this idea like, well, help support me first to shut down my analytical mind, then I'll do the thing that's scary. But what that does is it just lets you put one more thing in front of your fear. The path forward, the path to transformation is, oh, my mind's kicking up. It's trying to convince me to do all this stuff. It's getting really busy because I'm scared. But what I'm really committed to is doing the scary thing. I'm going to go do the scary thing. And transformation happens on the heels of you being willing to take that scary action, to step outside of your comfort zone in partnership with your fear being loud and out there and doing all of its stuff. So a lot of the times when clients bring like, I'm really afraid to do this thing and I want to address my fear, ironically, the thing that more often than not really moves their lives forward is loving them, acknowledging the fear, and then what's the thing that you're afraid to do? Great, let's support you to do it. And what they find happens is as they do it, it's scary, but they do it, and then their fear dissipates a bit because they start to become a little more familiar with it. And then they do it again, and their fear dissipates a little bit more. And then they do it again, and their fear dissipates a little bit more. And eventually, they stop being afraid to do that thing. Annoyingly, they didn't get any support to manage their fear or to change that or anything like that. The only real work was take on the action you're scared to take on. Certainly get supported. This isn't a conversation about like, so fuck it, anytime you're scared, just do the thing. It's more that in getting supported, often what there is to do is to have your fear normalized, to hold it with reverence, to really have a lot of love and compassion for yourself, and then to take the action anyhow. So that's what we do. We don't really try to quiet the analytical brain. We just acknowledge it. It's almost like we're drawing a dash, like, our brain's like, blah, 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 and then we're drawing like a dashed line around it, boop, put it in that little box, and then we're like, okay, there. That's now in a box. I'm going to let it do its thing, but I got shit to do too. So you go ahead, fear. You manage yourself. You do whatever you have to do. I got stuff I got to do too. Okay, let's have a bit of coffee and talk about charging fees with integrity. Is that how I worded this? Oh, I didn't. Weird. I didn't put my description here. What did I call this? Overview. See more. Charging fees with integrity. That's precisely what I called it. That was so smart of me. So Andrew asks a great question by a great man. And the question is, I got a question around coaching fees. This right here, by the way, is not going to be about coaching fees. Andrew's asking within that context, but we're really talking about like charging your fees, whatever it is you do. Sell houses, you're a tradesman, you're a coach, you're a realtor, whatever. So Andrew says, I've got a question around coaching fees. I've got a certain price point I've been enrolling clients at this year, and the number of folks joining versus the enrollment conversations is quote unquote low. So in my mind, the easier thing to do would be to lower my fees to potentially open up additional opportunities and coach more to gain experience. However, I also feel like that is an insult to the clients who have paid my current rate, and those clients who are at full pay, those are the types of clients I want to work with. Have you had an experience like this, and where might you look? So Andrew's saying like, I'm not converting a lot of people at the rate I'm charging, or at least this is how I'm hearing it. So one thing I could do is lower my rate, convert more people, get more practice coaching people. However, that's then an insult to the people that paid a higher rate. And will I then get people coming through the door that aren't really the kind of people I want to work with? And so what do I do with that? How do I work with that? So ultimately, this is a pretty common thing, is this fear that like I've got to charge one fee across the board to everyone. Otherwise, I'm being a jerk, I'm cheating people, people will be upset. So let's see. I got to think of, there's a bunch of different topics that we're going to kind of touch on here. We're going to talk about integrity and how that looks. And market-based pricing and stuff like that. So the first thing that can be really helpful for most people in any kind of profession where they're offering a service and charging a fee for it is to create for themselves what their fee like means. So the knee jerk is like it means that's what people pay to work with me. Yeah, okay, great. That's one way you could hold it. But like, is there a more powerful context you could have for your fee? So my fee, the way I relate to what I'm charging someone is this is the sort of measure of their commitment to the life they say they want. This fee holds it kind of creates a bar for them to step over and into their work with me and actually calls them into doing the hard work that is going to be required to create the transformations and the breakthroughs they want to create. And you could say, well, that's bullshit, Adam. Sure. But so is any other definition you create for your fees. At the end of the day, there's just our belief. There's our relationship to something that we create, and then that's it. That's how we come from. So while you might say that that thing is nonsense and you've created it, for me, it has power and meaning to hold it that way. And I invite my clients to step into their fee with me from that same lens. And the reason I invite them to that is because then when they hear like, oh, it costs 65K to work with Adam for a year, then we can start to ask questions like, so given that that's the bar for you to step over, what would be worth that? What would you want to create in your life that would have that be worthwhile? What kind of things would you need to have happen in your life that you'd be like, thank goodness I stepped over that bar because this life is so different. And that money that I paid, oh my God, it pales in comparison to what I've created. So by charging a particular rate, it calls me and my clients forward into a different place. If I charge someone $200 for a year of work, we could say, one of the things I've noticed is that they don't show up very powerfully because $200 doesn't cause much pain to throw. Like you can piss that away. You spend that on Netflix. You spend that on lattes in a year. I'm almost certain you do. I know I do. That's not even that many. What is that? Like 100? That's I don't know. Geez, I think I paid like $6 for a coffee most recently. I'm getting expensive. Inflation's nuts. So that would be like 30 coffees and we're at $200. So when the fee is really low like that, it doesn't call me or my clients forward very much. And they can kind of say yes without having to even pause. There's nothing that arrests them in their process. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then what do you know? They're missing calls. They're not showing up because it's not that painful. There's not that much skin in the game for them. So that's the starting point. Now, for me, I'm not rigid about that number. Where I'm looking always is through that context I just described for my fee, which is like, does this call this person forward? Does this create a bar for them and me to step up and into? So I have clients that I work with right now that have discounted rates. And I'm very clear that rate I'm offering is not a discount. I know I just used that term, but I'm offering them that rate because that is what I believe will source their breakthrough. I believe that's the amount of money to charge them in service of the breakthrough they want to create. I'm not offering them that because I'm trying to like create clients. I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's how I hold it. And if my client, like if one client came to me and said, hey, I just found out your other client's paying less than me. Why is that? I can really stand with integrity behind my reason because I charge a rate that I believe is going to cause and support your breakthroughs because that's the work we're here to do. And I thought about this, and when I talked to you and when we sat down and looked and blah, 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 this is the rate that I felt would really set you free. This is the rate that I thought would best support our work together. That doesn't mean that they'll be happy about it. If you're living your life in integrity, which means aligned in terms of your own thoughts, words, and actions, so you're internally aligned, not everyone's going to be happy about that. Sometimes when I'm living from integrity, if you're like, hey, I would like an hour of your time, and I'm like, cool, I don't have an hour of my time to offer you, I'm sorry. And they're going to be like, fuck you. Probably be a little more civil about it, but like, fuck you, you're so caught up on yourself. That's their opportunity to feel that way. They can hold me that way. That's their choice. I'm acting from my own integrity. I'm really clear this is what serves me. It's not personal. It's what's in integrity with me. And so whatever it is I'm doing, I want to make sure, can I honor this and hold this with integrity? Can I share this in a way that will feel good for me? My fees are a reflection of that. So I can share it with my clients. I'm okay if they talk. I don't need them to like keep a secret from other people. I don't like that. That doesn't feel good when I'm asking people to keep secrets. I want stuff out in the open because that's where our best work can happen. And as soon as we start to create a secret over here, now we got a bit of trouble. So I think that's a much more powerful place from which to create our fees. Here are some other thoughts. So one, Andrew is saying, in my mind, the easier thing to do is to lower my fee to potentially open up additional opportunities, coach more to gain more experience. So this is a common thing coaches, especially newer coaches, kind of, it's a way of thinking that they get sort of brought into, which is like, I'm new, so I'm going to coach a bunch for free so I can practice and then I can start charging money. What those coaches are not charging is standing for someone's commitment prior to working together. So the coach never gets any practice on that. What they gain practice in is coaching someone without any commitment on the table. And you are always winning the game that you are practicing. You're always getting better at the game you're currently playing. And so these coaches become better and better and better and better at like coaching people, being in a coaching conversation without any commitment on the table. They get better at becoming okay with that themselves. They get better at having that conversation with people and bringing people in. They get better and better and better at it. And that's fine if that's the game they're committed to. But most coaches, if you ask them, really, 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 really want to make a living doing this. And so a much more powerful place to start working at is like, I'm going to actually practice. What I'm going to be practicing is asking for what I think my work, my fee is worth. I'm going to ask for what I believe I'm worth as a coach. I'm going to ask for what I believe I'm worth as a realtor. I'm going to practice enrolling people in that. That will be my practice. That I think is far more powerful. Uh, Jay here is saying something really valuable, which is like, it's like playing 5 cent poker to get good at big tournaments. It's a different game. Totally. Exactly, Jay. And of course, there's a gradient, right? Like, I don't mean to say, therefore, the only thing to do is to start charging $50,000 right out of the gate. That's not the case, but we want people stepping over their comfort zone. Remember that. We want them leaning into what's uncomfortable because that's where transformation can happen. And so for a coach, maybe there's a point where offering some free coaching is like edgy for them, but usually they move past that point about 2 months in, 2, maybe 3, and then there's a point where charging a particular fee is like edgy and then it stops being. And then assuming that they want to like broaden their horizon, charge more, that's the point where there is for them to step forward, to ask for a higher fee. So I generally don't advise people to like charge a lower fee to have more people say yes to them to get better at practicing coaching. Instead, I invite people to practice telling people what your fee is and enrolling them in that fee, if that's the fee you want to charge. And of course, we always have to find like, where's the sweet spot, right? Some people that start into coaching have kind of an entitlement. They have an unwillingness to start at the bottom. They're like, I was a corporate person for 20 years. I should be able to charge this amount. I'm not going to lower myself to charging that amount, blah, blah, blah. And so those people come out of the gate and they start charging people like $40,000 right out of the gate. They've never coached anyone before. This is what it costs. And for some people that'll work. But for a lot of coaches, what I see happens is they're not able to hold that level of commitment. They're not able to draw that out of people. And so they either don't get any clients and get frustrated and then eventually like coaching's bullshit and they leave it, or they get clients that are willing to pay that money because it's not enough to really force them to put skin in the game. Like the client probably makes $1 million a year, so 40K isn't really that big of a deal. So the coach gets those clients, but then those clients quit because there's no commitment on the table. It just doesn't work. I just want to see if there's anything else Andrew's got here. And I guess the last thing I would say is, if it's at the point where you're like, boy, I need to get some clients or I'm not going to be able to put food on the table, great, then, lowering your fees is fine, right? None of this is sort of a hard and fast rule, but that's a different reason to lower our fees than telling someone, uh, it's a different reason than trying to practice coaching more. You're doing it because out of necessity, right? So at the end of the day, I think what's most powerful for people charging any fee is that we can stand behind our reasoning. We have a relationship to what we're charging that is empowering for us and that allows us to stand in integrity and allows us to share it with other people in such a way that we can feel pretty good about it, that we don't have to like hide it or make up a story. As soon as we're lying or making up a story, we're in really deep water. That's no good. Okay. Final question. This is from Tibby. Tibby says, I've got a question around essence, the essential nature of someone. Sore neck. I can already tell what my 2.5-year-old daughter's strong suits are, but I was wondering, is that too early to tell someone's essence? And the follow-up question is, how can I support my kids in staying in their essence as much as possible instead of impacting them with my beliefs and stuff and hence taking them away from it? What would serve my kids the most? I'm going to come back to that. I just see you wrote something, Andrew, here. So Andrew says, I definitely feel like this was a conversation that I brought a few years ago. He's talking about fees and stuff. It's a great reminder of standing for what they want to create in their life. One of the places I'm looking at is not changing the structure of my private coaching, but potentially creating a group program or a different point of entry. Cool. Cool. Okay, so essence. What Tibby is referring to here is, as human beings, we've got the essential nature, like the core qualities of being that we bring into the space. What makes Adam Adam? And I would assert, I'll tell you, like part of the qualities that you might recognize, notice, experience around me are connection, brilliance, passion, presence, and wit. That's like my essence. There's a whole bunch of other juicy stuff, but those are the strong suits. It's like I have brown hair, and who I am when I'm with you is connection, one of the things. Or I'm very witty and playful and funny. Hopefully you feel that. And so that's the essential nature. That's what I bring into the world and have brought into the world since the moment I came onto this planet and will continue to bring into the world the moment I leave. It's a function of my being. No matter what I'm doing, that's part of what I bring into the space. And because of the way the world works and the way we grow up and how that all happens, we can learn to kind of adopt strategies that are a bit askew from our essence. This is what typically we would call our shadow or our survival mechanism. So while from my connection, I can be really open and loving and like just a natural kind of lubricant, a social lubricant for any room, I can also, in situations where when I was young, I learned it's not wanted or safe for me to be fully open and connected. Around those situations, I can withdraw. I can become very inward. I can become a wallflower. I can become very like sort of, fuck you. I don't need you. I'm not going to talk to you. I can become very comfortable just being by myself, connecting internally rather than with other human beings. I can become what some people historically would call introverted, though I'm working to have people stop using those terms. So there's our essence, and then there's our sort of shadows, the ways we've learned to be that are a bit counter to our essential nature. The model we use, Bay and I, and that is present in Who Do You Think You Are and that I talk about, is one of essence or our fundamental qualities, our gifts. And then there's what we call, oh, my neck is so sore, the overexpressing and the underexpressing parts of our shadow. So someone who is brilliant, in some situations, they're just naturally going to get feedback from the world. Like you need to be even smarter. So imagine a child who's like just at school, just naturally doing good, getting B pluses and A's. And their parents are like, hey, you need to like do better in grade 4. You need to do better. You need to really get high grades. So the kid has this sort of point of like a conundrum where they're like, damn, I thought I was just doing good, but it needs to be harder. I need to be more focused. And so around those situations and all future situations that look like it, they learn to create what we call the overexpressing part of their shadow. So that's where they're like naturally brilliant, but they learn that's not enough. You need to turn yourself up even further. They turn it up to 11. And in other situations, they learn the opposite. So maybe they're in class, like a particular type of class, and they just naturally do good on tests, and all the kids make fun of them and call them a nerd. Or, well, we'll go with that one. And so in situations like that, they may learn to dim their intelligence. They turn their intelligence down. So this is what we call the underexpressing part of their shadow. So every human being has an essential nature, an essence, a core set of qualities of being, and every human being has developed every human being has developed shadows, over and under expressing parts of their shadow that correspond with their essential nature. So that's what Tibby's asking about. Like, at 2.5 years, can I distinguish the essence of my daughter? Is it possible to see that? Is the first question. Absolutely. So our essential nature is something that's here the moment we come out of the womb, probably even sooner, like the moment the soul comes down and joins the fetus, really, but we're not going to get into that. The moment you're born, birthed into this planet, your essence is available. It's on display. And you can, it sounds sometimes a little far-fetched for people to believe, but you can actually distinguish someone's essence just looking into their eyes. One of the things for a while that I was doing in the London Underground, the Metro in England, they had, one of the stations had these big posters, like historical posters of the people that had contributed to building the Metro, big black white photos and then like a bunch of writing. And I was waiting for Bay. She was sorting out something with her Oyster card, the card you use to get on and off the tube. And I was just looking at these photos, kind of bored. And I was like, I wonder if I can distinguish the essence of these people. And looking at the photo, you can pick up on their essential nature. You can notice as you look in their eyes, you'll start to see like, I feel a playfulness below this stern surface. I notice connection here. I feel drawn into you. I can tell there's wisdom there. So that's always available. And sure enough, for the child, like often with toddlers, but you can see it at younger ages, people will find themselves saying things like, it's so weird, but this kid feels like a wise old soul. They're present to the experience of wisdom with that person. They'd be like, wow, this kid is just like really noticing everything around them. And yeah, kids have a natural curiosity, but some humans just bring that quality in spades. That's their strong suit. So it's not to suggest like some kids laugh a bunch and other kids have a ton of play. It's just that those qualities are present for certain people in stronger suits. So Tibby, to your first question, absolutely. It's not too early to tell. In fact, at that age, it's often easier for us to distinguish these qualities because the child has not yet fully formed their shadows. They have not been trained by the world around them, or as some developmental psychologists call it, they've not been socialized by the world around them, that some parts of who they are need to be less and some parts of who they are need to be more than what occurs naturally. And that's where they start to make their shadow. And so it's much easier to distinguish the essence of a child than it is of an 80, let's say a 70-year-old person. As people start to get into their advanced stages of life and towards senescence and like, end of life, their essence starts to become more available because they're moving closer towards death. And at death, we return back to our source. Now, Tibby's follow-up question is, how can I support my kids in staying in their essence as much as possible and instead of impacting them with my beliefs and stuff and hence taking them away from it? What would serve my kids the most? Easy answer to this question with a caveat. The easy answer is you do your work. So hire an ontological coach. Start working on your own breakthroughs. Our children learn by witnessing how we're being. The cliched saying is children learn by what we do, not by what we say. Not entirely accurate. Children learn by who we are being, not by what we are doing or saying. So if your child is witnessing you struggling at work, suffering at work, and telling yourself, I'm happy with my job, when your being underneath is that you don't like your job, that's what the child will learn. They will learn, the way to be is to like do something because you should, work to convince yourself that you're happy about it while secretly becoming accepting of the fact that you don't like your job. That's what they learn. So the best way to support your children to really, really, really live from their essence is for you to model it. work with a coach, do your own work. The the other part of that, the caveat, is kind of what Tibby asked, which is like, well, how do I support them to like stay, in their essence and not, you know, get swayed or impacted by my beliefs and stuff? You won't. Every single one of us splits from our soul at some point. That's what that shadow ultimately is like we come onto this planet like connected with the soul of who we are. Our essential nature is just what we be. And then slowly but surely the world around us trains us. That's not enough. You should be different. And we split. We conclude what I am innately is not safe or wanted or desired or whatever. And poof, we create an alternate personality, a shadow. You can't stop that. And further, you shouldn't try to. And the thing about this is a lot of parents, I think this is becoming less so the case these days, but there was like an era of parenting that was really almost like reactive to the harshness of the sort of post-war parenting, like kind of the hippie era parenting, the beatnik parenting. I know those are different generations, but never mind that. And so what happened was parents became very like, how do I make sure this child knows they're loved? And what got created is like a, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but we'll do so for the purpose of this conversation. What got created was a generation of sheltered people, children that felt entitled, children that didn't have the capacity to be with rigor, to be with things not going their way. So whatever you try to affect onto your child, it's not going to work. I'm not saying so just fuck it, kick them or do something horrible like that. Be a good parent. But the best way to be a good parent is by doing your work. Just like the best way to be a good leader is to work with your own coach, do your own work, because that is how we model something to people. And the world operates through what we model. The world learns by what we model. It's the reason why so many companies have bosses, leaders that, create, for example, let's make something up like unlimited vacation. And then the leader themselves is like, but I only take 1 week of vacation. Guess what that culture is going to be? A bunch of people talking about their unlimited vacation, taking 1 week of vacation, because that's what the leader is modeling. So we learn by modeling. And when you take on your work as a parent, as a leader, as a whatever, I mean, Mia's here. She's cheering this on. Yes, Adam. Yes, yes, yes. This is the work. And the other side of the work is to really see the split from our soul, to see that creation of a shadow as a beautiful thing. Because in doing so, we can then return back home. Then we can do that work to come back into our essential nature. And if that wasn't available, life would be a bit boring and we would be a little bit defenseless. Like the question is almost like, how do I create a child that has zero armor at all? Well, you can't, nor should you. Armor is important. We just don't want to live our entire lives in our armor. We want to set it down when it's time to set it down. So I would say, don't worry. Don't worry about messing your kid up. You will. Except it's not going to be you. The whole world's going to mess your child up, quote unquote, mess them up. But that's a beautiful part of this process. It's a tremendous gift. Sidebar. This is why when 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds, like people of that age, come to me or like some of the other coaches I'm colleagues with and say, hey, I want to be a coach. What do I do? More often than not, what I suggest to them is like, go out and fuck your life up a bit. Go out and create some messes. Go out and discover like what you love. Go party. Just be a teenager in the twilight of their teenage years and enjoy your 20s and get arrogant and do all of that. Because then you will sort of get some scars a little bit. You'll get some armor pulled up, and then you can come back and really do the work to start to let that down. Someone who's sort of like the almost the myth or the like fantasy of like, I'm going to start at 18. I'm going to make any of these mistakes. Okay, but you're not going to be able to help any of us because all of us are making these mistakes. And if you haven't made any of them yourself, how are you going to teach us anything? The way we teach is by doing our own work. So go get fucked up, young ones. Have fun. It's really fun to go party and rave and fuck up and do drugs and drink and cause all these messes. Be responsible. Don't hurt people, but like make a mess. And then when you're ready, come back here, and then we've got work to do. Uh, Mia, you're saying, responding to Andrew, Mia saying, I'm finding the more I allow myself to be and come from my essence, the more I support my sons to do the same thing by staying out of the way. That's so beautifully put. And Mia's written a few. I recommend going and checking out her page on Facebook. She's written a few just beautiful shares, really modeling the leadership I'm talking about, where she's sort of seen this work, wanted something to happen with her sons, and then gone within and done the work internally, and then from there can see like, oh, I don't need to control my son. Maybe there is for me to share like my heart with them, but from a place free of needing them to do anything different. So definitely recommend following her. And Andrew's sharing, I've been feeling into the essence of folks that I pass on the street these days, and I get attuned to them in my own children. Being able to trust the essence that we see in others is such a gift. Aho. I felt that the trust has been enhanced through opening up to spirit and seeing the true good in others. Yeah, it really is. And what a gift to ourselves. Like we resist this. We're like, I don't want it. Like, no, my dad's a little crotchety. Be like, it's bullshit. People are the way they are. Okay. And some people are like, not everyone has innate good in them. Some people are just assholes. I don't find that a very empowering context for human beings, for myself. Like if I relate to some people as just a fixed entity called asshole, then I don't have much space for them. And really the only thing for me to do is find a way to avoid them entirely. I want to be clear, I'm not talking about people that aren't whole and complete, people with like broken wiring in their brain. I'm talking about whole and complete human beings. The vast majority of the world around us is made up of. And so from that place, those people that occur to me like an asshole, a much more empowering context for me is like, what is the good underneath this? And a really powerful place for me to come from is what's going on for this person that has them showing up this way? And not like the way I would answer that question kind of dismissively, like, oh, they're just a shithead. That's what's going on for them. The way I would answer that same question if I was looking at me. What's going on for me today that has me showing up like an asshole? Well, I'm really upset. I did that thing with my wife and I'm feeling bad about it, and I just don't feel very good about myself. I feel like I'm a piece of crap. And that's making me kind of relate to everyone else as a piece of crap. Oh, okay. So what's going on for me is I'm being pretty self-loathing. And from that place, it's kind of hard for me to bring much love into the rest of the world. It's hard to love someone else when you're hating yourself. It doesn't really work. And if I can start to relate to people that way, right? Starting from that commitment, looking through the lens, what is the good that I see here? What might be having that good show up this way? Then I go through the world with way more compassion, way more spaciousness. And when I do that, my life's better for it. Fuck all these other people. Never mind that their life might get better because they get to interact with me like that. My life's better. I'm doing this because I'm selfish, guys. It's enlightened self-interest is what I'm going for. So it's worth trying that on, giving that a go and seeing, does it make my life better when I show up this way? Okay. Okay, dokie. Do we have any more coffee I can drink? Yep, a little bit. No tea this time. We went coffee. A couple plugs. If you haven't already and you would like to be part of the the launch date sale of this book, who do you think you are? Send me an email, write me a message, put a comment, make sure I know so that I can add you to the email list. You won't get hammered with messages, so I'm going to let you know like sort of the weeks leading up. Here's what's happening. Remember the launch date is here. And then on the day in question, probably 3 days before, and then the day in question, we'll let you know so you can make sure you get the discounted rate. We do all that stuff. We're also going to provide details through that, how you can redeem your discounted Kindle purchase to get the free paperback that I'm offering. Do I have the proof? I think I just got a new proof. Oh yeah, look, I've got a new paperback proof that I've got to go over. It's the last kind of edition. We have 3 spots available on the Forge. And so what the Forge is our 9-month program for coaches and leaders that want to embrace, become, embody transformation. So if you're someone that coaches or leads and really wants to support others and do this work yourself, the Forge is a great place to do that. It's also a much lower cost to work with Bay and I than one-on-one. And you get this amazing community. You get to go on this incredible retreat to Costa Rica that'll change your life. That is not an ayahuasca retreat. Don't worry. Sometimes people get concerned they're going to have to do ayahuasca. It's not a part of this program. Um, and then lastly, I'm next going to be going down to sit in ceremony on September the 23rd. September 23rd. So about a little over or a little under 2 months from now. And if you're interested by this, if any of what I've talked to kind of resonates with you, let me know. I would love to have you come. And when you come with me and Bay, one of the things you get is sort of like us in your corner and the opportunity to get supported throughout that process. There's a ton of support around you at Rhythmia where we go. And it's nice to sort of like, with us, you get to be in an ongoing conversation with us throughout that week, and we can support you a little bit to integrate your process and to set the sort of clearing the floor for you to go down and begin from a really powerful place. So if that's something you're interested in, you can let us know. Andrew's saying I'm really looking forward to the Forge. I've been missing being part of a community for this last half year. We're excited to have you too, Andrew. And Mia, one of our leaders, is just saying the Forge is an amazing program. I highly recommend it. She is not just saying that, she is heading into her third year with us. So the people that you're going to meet through this work are incredible. And what's really cool is that they're all committed to transformation. That's not to say that the rest of the world's not, but like transformation exists inside of a commitment and a committed structure. And so one of the things that's amazing about the Forge is you get to be in conversations with other people that are committed to transformation. And that when we work with a coach one-on-one, sometimes we don't feel that way. We come back into the world and we're like, oh, it's all on me to take responsibility, which is the leader's job. But man, it'd be nice to be able to talk transformationally with these people instead of conversationally. Okay, that's the whole live today. Love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next Friday. Next Friday, I'm going to have my client Anna come on and she'll share a little bit about her experience being in Arrhythmia, sitting in ceremony with me. So we'll talk a bit about that and we'll see where else we'll go. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.